Okay, so I have made this awesome part studio with all these parts together, okay? And what I'm hoping for is to actually have them together in such a way that I can create what's called a bill of materials, and to have this actually go in all together as part of a drawing file. And so what I need to do is to assemble those. I need to put these together. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here, I'm going to insert a new element, and I'm going to create an assembly. Got that assembly being created. Now there's nothing going on there. There's not even any axes or planes or anything going on. All we have is this origin right here. And we will pay attention to that only in the very minimal way. We have our view cube as usual. We have our left, browser, as we might call it. Up here at the top, we have that assembly, and we're going to have different parts go in here. And then we have mate features, so ways that our parts relate to each other are going to go in kind of this bottom area of this box. And then up at the top we have all of our tools. In general, as we are using OnShape, or most CAD programs I've used anyway, if you click, or if you're looking towards the left, those are the tools that are used probably the most often. And then each box, so this one only has one thing in it between those gray bars. And then the next one all the way to the left within this set of tools is the one we're going to use the most often, and all that. And then it kind of gets less and less common as we go towards the right. And so starting here, we're going to insert, and I'm going to insert just one of my parts. And it's a good idea to do this one at a time. So I clicked here on that part, clicked in my browser, I have one of them, or my graphics window, I should say. And I'm going to hit the check mark. I could put all of these other parts in, but it gets confusing. So I'm going to start off with just putting this one part in. I'm going to start with the first part I made. It's kind of my anchor. It's towards the bottom. It's off to one side. And I'll be able to build things off of that, which makes it much easier. It doesn't matter which one you do, but having one that is maybe lower, maybe towards one side, that is relates to other parts, does make it a little bit easier, and this red part happens to fit that. Okay, so I've got this all set. The thing is, I can still move this guy around, and so what I'm going to do is right click either over here within my browser, or in my graphics window. I can also right click, and I'm going to hit fix. And what that does is it locks it into place, makes it so it cannot move. It anchors it where it is. Then from there, I'm going to insert my next part. And again, trying to think about how these kind of build on top of these each other. I can go over to my original one and kind of hide some of my extras. I'm seeing how this green shape relates to the red shape. Okay, so from there I know where it goes. Going back over to my assembly, I can insert, and that green shape is definitely part 2 is a logical thing to have. So I'm going to go ahead and click right there, hit the check mark. I'm all done with putting parts in because I like to do one at a time. I can still right click and drag to change my orientation, but I usually use the view cube. It kind of keeps things a little better oriented. And what I'm going to do now is just pick a point, some corner, where I know these two things line up. And so I know this top corner right here should line up with this top corner right here. And so I know those two things are going to relate. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to add what are called mate connectors onto both of those. Once I have those, I can then put those together, I can make that connection. So the mate connector is again over one step over, which is this mate connector. And what I like to do is I'm gonna put it on this green one first. Is I'm putting my mouse over top of this top right here, and my blue line is my primary axis. You can see there's kind of a little blue line right there. And if I have it on a face, it's going to be normal to that face. That is, that z-axis is actually going to go straight out from that face. And then if I move to the corner, it will do that. If I'm moving my mouse straight to that corner, it might line up with this edge instead, or I might go from this face over. But for me, I'm going to mouse over the top of both of these and then select that corner. So I'm clicking right now. My red axis is going kind of on this right side here. My green is going along that kind of the edge going away from me. And then the blue line is going up. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit OK. I'm happy with that one. So I'm going to say OK. Then I'm going to try to match that. And so I again moused over this parallel face, this face that is lined up with it. So if I put my mouse over it, I've still got that blue line going straight up. I've actually, because I put these all in the same mate, or within the same part studio, they actually share that inherent orientation already. And so I can actually click here, and I have a blue line going straight up, just like this one. I've got a red line going kind of towards the right here, just like this one. And then I've got a green that's going away from me, just like this one. So if those were to overlap and be in the same orientation, they would have this lined up correctly. If that was not the case, you can flip your primary axis. If that blue is upside down, and you can flip that. You can also rotate the secondary axis, and that's the red one. So we can rotate that if we want. Right now we don't need to. We can also, if we want, realign, and so we can pick from that point what's the up and down, and then the secondary is what is our x-axis, our horizontal axis from there. But I don't need to do that. And then we also might need to move it. That is, you can actually have things be a certain distance away from that connection. Again, we don't need to do that. That's more advanced. We should be able to get away with just using these and maybe reorienting a couple things. All right, so I've got two mate connectors. If they go together, they would line up and everything, so that's all good. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick my fastened mate. And this right here, this blue box, is telling me I either need to click somewhere within my graphics window or somewhere on one of these mate features. And so what I'm going to do is click here, and that one worked. Selected this mate connector. And then I can actually click here as well. You notice it's highlights right here, and it actually moved. And so there we go. We've got those 2 points lined up with each other. Our parts are lined up in the way they're supposed to. That's all great. I can hit my check mark right here, and that's committing the current mate. It's saying, okay, that one's good. Let's move on to the next one. I don't have any parts, and so I need to actually get out of this in general. So I'm going to hit this fastened mate right here, that check mark on the larger box. That gets out of the entire thing. It confirms it, gets out of it. And that's okay, because now the next step is to find that next part. And as you've noticed, we've had these parts kind of build off of each other. So I know that my third part is going to actually line up in kind of this orientation right here. And so I'll put that one in. I again find 2 corners, one on each part, that are going to line up. So I've got this corner here and this corner here. They're going to line up, and so I should be able to hopefully move that corner to there. So again, mate connector. I'm going to mouse over that top plane. That gets my blue line straight up and down. That's all good. So I'll click there. for that first mate connector of the pairs, you probably are just going to kind of confirm whatever it is. And then for the second one, our goal is to match it. And again, there is kind of an inherent orientation to this because they're both part of that same part studio. So I'm going to double check blue and blue, they line up, the green and green line up, and the red line up. It's all good. I don't need to worry about that the second mate connector, that red is kind of coming off of that part. That's fine, that doesn't matter, as long as they're in that same orientation. Okay? Then from there, fasten mate, I click on one, I click on the other, it snaps to being together, I hit OK, and there we go, we've got that next part all done. So there we go, and all we've got to do then is continue on until we get all